The purple dust of Elysium-9 clung to Finn. Mercer's boots as he navigated the skeletal remains of what was once a thriving alien settlement. His salvage scanner chirped rhythmically, leading him through the labyrinth of collapsed structures. 6 months into his contract with Frontier Salvage Corps, he'd grown accustomed to the loneliness of abandoned worlds. Another ghost town, he muttered, adjusting his respirator. The air was technically breathable, but the spores that gave the dust its vibrant hue were notorious for causing hallucinations. The scanner's tone changed abruptly, indicating something valuable beyond a half-collapsed archway. Finn ducked through, his hand instinctively resting on his pulse pistol. In his experience, valuable things were rarely unguarded, even in deserted places. What he found wasn't valuable metal or ancient technology. It was her. She lay partially concealed beneath fallen debris, her silvery skin marked with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Humanoid, but definitely not human. Her features were delicate, yet alien eyes slightly too large, fingers too long. What struck him most were the scars' ritualistic markings that covered half her face and continued down her neck. Disappearing beneath her tattered garments, Finn had heard stories about the Valiants, a nomadic species known for their complex social hierarchy and distrust of outsiders. This woman wore the markings of an outcast as he knelt beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, startlingly gold, with vertical pupils that dilated with fear. "Easy," Finn said softly, raising his empty hands. "I'm not going to hurt you," she recoiled, speaking in a musical language his translator couldn't quite catch. When she tried to move, she winced, revealing a deep gash across her abdomen. "You're injured?" Finn said, reaching for his medkit. "Let me help." The alien woman watched him warily as he prepared a seal patch for her wound. Her breathing was labored and up close. He could see that the scars on her face weren't just decorative, they were brutal marks of punishment. "I'm Finn," he said, pointing to himself. "Do you understand me?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Navia," she replied, her voice like wind through crystal. "They hunt me." Finn glanced over his shoulder at the empty ruins. "Who's hunting you?" "My people." Her eyes darted to the horizon. "The widow must not live." "Widow." Her long fingers traced the scars on her face. "My mate died. They say I am cursed. Death follows me." The effort of speaking seemed to drain her. She slumped back. Finn's scanner beeped a warning atmospheric disturbance. A storm was coming, and they were exposed. He made a quick decision, one that violated at least 3 sections of his salvage contract. "Can you walk if I help you?" Navia struggled to sit up. "Why would you help the cursed?" Finn smiled beneath his respirator. "Humans don't believe in curses. We make our own luck." He gently lifted her, surprised by how light she was despite being nearly as tall as him. "My ship isn't far. You'll be safe there." As they made their slow way through the ruins, the sky darkened to a deep magenta. The first lightning bolts cracked across the horizon, illuminating the desolate landscape. "They will find me," Nevia whispered against his shoulder. "They always do." "Let them try," Finn replied, determination hardening his voice. "I've outrun worse than superstitious aliens." What he didn't tell her was that helping an alien, especially one being hunted by her own kind, could cost him his contract. His ship, maybe even his freedom. But something in those golden eyes made him think it might be worth the risk. The storm closed in behind them as they reached his ship, the ramp descending like an outstretched hand. Whispers of the past Finn's ship, the Wanderer, was a compact salvage vessel not designed for comfort, but functional enough for his solitary lifestyle. The medical bay was little more than a converted storage compartment, with basic equipment. He carefully laid Navia on the examination table and began treating her wounds properly. "This might sting," he warned, applying antiseptic to the gash. She didn't flinch, her golden eyes studying him with cautious curiosity. "You have kind hands for a scavenger," she observed, her translator finally synchronizing with his ship's systems. Finn smiled. "I wasn't always a scavenger. Before the resource wars, I was a medic." His fingers worked deftly, sealing the wound. Battlefield experience comes in handy in the salvage business.
"Wars," Nevia echoed, her expression darkening.
My people know much of war. It is what led us to these forgotten worlds. As Finn worked, Nevia gradually revealed her story. The Valians were once a unified species until their home planet's resources dwindled. They scattered across the stars, forming nomadic clans that grew increasingly isolated and superstitious. My clan, the Salvarai, believe that death has a scent, she explained. When my mate died in an expedition, they claimed I was marked by death itself. These scars, she touched her face. They are warnings to others. The mark of the cursed widow. Finn frowned. That's barbaric. It is tradition, she countered, though without conviction. I was to be exiled to die alone, but I chose to run instead. That is why they hunt me. A cursed one who defies tradition threatens the clan's purity. The ship's sensors beeped as the storm outside intensified, battering the hull with debris and lightning. They were grounded until it passed. What about you? Nevia asked. Why does a human medic scavenge alone on dead worlds? Finn busied himself cleaning his instruments. After the wars, there wasn't much left for people like me. Too many memories. He paused, his back to her. I lost my family in the Titan colony collapse. Decided the fewer people around me, the better. You fear becoming cursed like me? She observed quietly. He turned, surprised by her insight. Maybe we're not so different. Later, as Nevia rested, Finn checked the ship's scanners. The storm would keep them grounded for at least another day. He stared at the communications panel. Considering whether to report his find, salvage contracts required disclosure of all intelligent life encountered. His finger hovered over the transmitter. Standard procedure would mean turning Nevia over to Frontier, authorities for processing a clinical term for the orphan. Brutal interrogation and likely deportation that awaited non-humans without official status. Finn switched the comms off. Some regulations weren't worth following. That night, as Nevia slept in his quarters, he'd taken the cockpit chair. He studied the star charts. If her clan was hunting her, they wouldn't stay on this planet long. They needed to leave as soon as the storm cleared. But where could they go? Where would a cursed alien and a human deserter find safety? He was still pondering this when the proximity alarm sounded. The scanner showed multiple heat signatures approaching through the storm. Somehow, they'd been found. Nevia, he called, rushing to wake her. We've got company. Dawn broke with crimson fingers stretching across the alien landscape. The storm had passed, but it had brought unwelcome visitors. From the cockpit, Finn counted 6 figures approaching through his binoculars tall. Silver-skinned forms adorned with ceremonial armor that caught the morning light. They found us, Nevia whispered, her face pale with fear. She stood behind him, wearing one of his spare flight suits, several sizes too big for her slender frame. How? In that storm? The Salvarai have trackers that can sense the chemical signatures of their clan members across great distances. Her hand unconsciously rose to her scarred face, especially those marked by death. Finn calculated their options. The Wanderer could outrun them in open space, but they'd need to reach orbit first. With 6 hunters converging, they'd never make it to launch without confrontation. We need a distraction, he decided, reaching for his pack. There's a ravine to clicks east, with a network of caves. If we can reach it, we might lose them long enough to circle back. They slipped out through the emergency hatch, leaving the ship sealed. The morning air was crisp, carrying the aftermath scent of the storm ozone and disturbed soil. Nevia moved with surprising grace despite her injury, her natural agility compensating for her weakened state. They kept low, using the ruined structures for cover. Twice they froze as hunters passed nearby, their ornate helmets scanning the surroundings. Nevia trembled against him during these close encounters, her body pressed to his in the narrow hiding spaces. The cave system connects to an ancient aqueduct, she whispered, as they paused behind a fallen pillar. My people once traded with the original inhabitants of this settlement. You've been here before? Finn asked. Many cycles ago with my mate. Her eyes clouded with memory. Before they marked me, when they finally reached the ravine, the sun had climbed higher, intensifying the heat. Sweat beaded on Finn's brow as they scrambled down the rocky slope. The cave entrance was partially hidden by twisted vegetation. Inside, cool darkness enveloped them. Finn activated his light, revealing smooth, carved walls that spoke of ancient engineering. Water trickled somewhere in the distance. This way, Nevia led him deeper, her hand finding his in the dim light. Her touch was cool and smooth, her fingers naturally intertwining with his. They followed the declining passage until it opened into a vast underground chamber. A pool of luminescent water cast ethereal blue light throughout the space. Crystal formations grew from ceiling and floor, creating natural columns. "It's beautiful," Finn breathed. "A sacred place," once Nevia said. Before fear consumed my people, they rested by the pool's edge, drinking the sweet water and tending to Nevia's wound. The cool air and silence created an intimate bubble, isolating them from the hunters above. "If they find us here," Nevia said softly, "they will kill you for helping me." Finn looked at her, really looked beyond the scars and alien features to the person beneath. Some things are worth the risk. Their eyes held, a moment stretching between them. Slowly, hesitantly, Nevia leaned forward. Her lips, when they touched his, were cool and soft, the kiss gentle and questioning. Finn responded, his hand rising to cradle her face, fingers tracing the edge of her scars with tenderness no one had shown her since her marking. Above them, distant echoes broke the silence, voices calling in Nevia's native tongue. The hunters had found the cave entrance. Sanctuary among the stars, they fled deeper through the ancient aqueduct. Guided by Nevia's fragmented memories and Finn's scanner, the tunnel system sprawled beneath the settlement like a labyrinth, occasionally opening into chambers similar to the one they'd left behind. The hunters' calls grew fainter as they navigated the maze, but never disappeared entirely. "Where does this lead?" Finn whispered as they paused at an intersection of 3 identical passages. Nevia's brow furrowed, her golden eyes reflecting the dim light of his scanner. "If I remember correctly, these tunnels were built to connect to." She hesitated, as if unsure whether to trust her own memory. To an orbital tether? A space elevator? Finn's interest was immediately piqued. Functional, not for many centuries. But its base facility might offer shelter, and it's where my people would least expect us to go. The area is considered spiritually contaminated. They chose the rightmost tunnel, which gradually sloped upward. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the distant drip of water and the occasional skittering of native creatures. The kiss they'd shared hung between them, unacknowledged, yet impossible to forget. Eventually, the tunnel widened into a cavernous space, so vast that Finn's light couldn't reach its boundaries. Only as they ventured further did the enormity of the chamber become clear. They stood in the launch bay of an ancient spaceport, long abandoned but remarkably preserved. The archive spoke of this place. Nevia breathed, awe evident in her voice. The gate of ascension, where our ancestors first met the stars. Dominating the center was a massive cylindrical structure, the base of the orbital tether, now severed, but still reaching toward the ceiling like a monument to lost technology. Around it clustered various structures, some collapsed, others intact. Over there, Finn pointed to a sealed facility built into the far wall. "Looks like an operations center." The door yielded to their combined strength, revealing an interior untouched by time. Emergency lighting flickered to life as they entered backup systems, responding to movement after centuries of dormancy. "The power core must be nuclear," Finn marveled, examining the functional consoles. "This place could sustain us for weeks." Nevia repeated quietly, testing the word. She approached him slowly, her silver skin luminous in the blue emergency lighting. "You speak as if our paths are joined beyond this moment." Finn met her gaze steadily. "Aren't they?" Their second kiss was different, not hesitant, but certain. Not a question, but an answer. His arms encircled her waist as hers wound around his neck, their bodies fitting together despite their differences. The intimacy that followed was a discovery of similarities and differences, of unexpected compatibility and gentle exploration. Later, as they lay together on emergency blankets, Nevia traced the outline of Finn's face. "My people believe that to share oneself with another is to share souls," she said softly. "They would consider me doubly cursed now, having joined with a human." Finn kissed her palm. "Then we'll be cursed together." On the third day in their sanctuary, as they explored the facility's archives, the perimeter alarm they'd rigged sounded. The hunters had found them. Beyond the scars, they stood together at the operations center's reinforced window, watching as the 6 Violian hunters assembled in the cavernous launch bay. Their ceremonial armor gleamed under the emergency lights, their weapons drawn and ready. "Won't leave without me," Nevia said, her voice steady, despite the fear Finn could feel in her trembling fingers intertwined with his. "Then we'll have to convince them." Finn squeezed her hand. "You know your people's customs better than I do. Is there any way to challenge the judgment against you?" Nevia was silent for a long moment. "There is the right of testimony. An accused may call upon witnesses to speak of their character, but no one has invoked it in generations and never for one already marked." "Then we make history today," Finn said, his determination masking his uncertainty. "I'll be your witness." The facility's communication system still functioned, allowing Finn to broadcast his voice across the launch bay. "Hunters of the Sci-fi," he called, watching as the aliens turned toward the sound. "I request audience under the right of testimony." Confusion rippled visibly through the group. The tallest hunter stepped forward, removing his helmet to reveal a face similar to Nevia's, though unmarked by scars. His expression was one of disbelief and disdain. "A human invokes our sacred rights?" His voice carried clearly through the speakers. "You have no standing among us, creature." "I speak as witness for Nevia of Sci-fi," Finn replied. "Your own laws permit any sentient being to testify to the character of the accused." The hunter conferred briefly with his companions before responding. "The widow is beyond testimony. Her curse is evident in her markings." Nevia activated the cum. "Sareth, my brother," she addressed the lead hunter, "you know the law better than most. Deny me this right, and you dishonor our ancestors." A tense silence followed. Finally, Sareth nodded. "Come forth, both of you. We will hear this testimony, though it changes nothing." They emerged from the facility unarmed, Finn's heart pounding. The hunters formed a semicircle, their weapons lowered but ready. Up close, Finn could see the family resemblance between Nevia and Saretha. Same elegant features, the same golden eyes. "Speak human," Sareth commanded. Finn stepped forward. "I found Nevia injured and alone. She spoke of being cursed, of death following her. But in the days since, I've seen only life in her presence." He gestured to the ancient facility around them. "She led us to this place of your ancestors, preserved for centuries. Is that the action of one who brings death?" "The curse manifests in many ways," another hunter interjected. "Her mate died within a cycle of their bonding. And how many of your hunters have died in pursuit of her?" Finn countered. "Is that her curse, or the consequence of your actions?" Sareth's expression hardened. "You know nothing of our ways." "I know that fear makes people cruel," Finn said. "Human or Valyrian, fear of the unknown, fear of being marked ourselves, it drives us to mark others instead." Nevia stepped beside him. "Brother, the ancients taught that understanding surpasses superstition. You lead our scholars, you know this." A subtle shift occurred in Sareth's posture. "The council demanded your return. If they examine me and find no curse?" Nevia asked. "If their fears prove unfounded, then the marks remain, but your exile would end." Sareth glanced at Finn. "Though your association with this human would bring its own judgment." Finn met his gaze steadily. "Then judge us both." The journey to the Violian settlement was tense but without hostility. As they approached the encampment, Nevia slipped her hand into Finn's. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "you saw beyond my scars. That is a gift no one can take." Finn smiled. "They're part of you. Not a curse, just a chapter in your story." He brushed his lips against her temple. "A story will continue, whatever comes next." The settlement's council of elders received them with wary curiosity. The examination was thorough, combining spiritual rituals with scientific analysis. Throughout it all, Finn remained by Nevia's side, a living testimony to the possibility of connection beyond prejudice. When the verdict came that Nevia carried no curse, that her mate's death had been tragic coincidence it brought, not just her redemption, but the beginning of change for her people. The scars remained, but their meaning transformed, no longer marks of shame, but symbols of endurance. And in the cycles that followed, as human and Valian diplomacy tentatively blossomed, many would point to the cursed widow and her human defender as the first bridge between worlds,